Hey, Shalom, Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Hakadash, double honor to the apostles, bishops, elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to brothers in highways and byways doing the works of sealing faithfully and continually fighting that good fight of faith. Lord willing, we're finding that number to be delivered. All right, so I'm just going to jump right on into it, man. And as we get closer to the end to this kingdom and this world and the things that be, the men of Israel are waxing worse and worse and becoming, pretty much unbearable, you know, for the shit that's going on, the shit that's they're saying, the shit that they're preaching. It's getting to the point where the Lord is going to really start making, examples out of a lot of you people, man. All right. Here we are. We're about to receive the kingdom that had been promised unto our forefathers and unto us. And you men are still fooling around here in Babylon, trying to trim your ways so everybody can be, loved. All right. But if you truly understand the dynamics of what the Lord has going on here, you're gonna stick with the men whom the Lord has set up, and the men who are going to teach you and guide you, and spiritually guide you down the right path. So this is Second Timothy 3. I'm gonna start at the top. It says, "This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come." All right. And as each waking morning comes about, we're seeing something happen or something being revealed through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai Shai that's letting us know that these perilous times are on the way. Okay? And it says, "For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful and unholy." All right? And this is why you see a lot of these Israelites, all of a sudden being super proud and super boastful. But the one thing that's mentioned here, it says disobedient to parents. Now we understand and know that before the apostles came out, I believe Nate was out teaching, I believe Zabak was out teaching. But when the apostles of Great Millstone, from the elder apostle Tahar on down, when they came on the scene, this is when us babes begin to be nurtured and fed that sincere milk. All right. Which now in turns entitles them to be our spiritual parents. A lot of you men have forgotten, where you came from and who through the spirit of the Lord, taught you this truth. You get a little understanding inside of you, and now you raise yourself up to now be disobedient, to be, disrespectful, if you will. But all these things must be done. Prophecy and scripture must be fulfilled. So we're not marveling that, you men have been, shooting off at the mouth, and being unthankful and unholy. Verse 3, "Without natural affection, truth breakers, false accusers." Right? And let me tell you this. There's a lot of people out there who have come into this truth, right? And they've examined, they've looked, they've watched videos, they've watched different camps. But the majority of the men who have been woken up have chosen to go the routes they went because of the men of Great Millstone have always been accused of something, right? And coming into this truth, the last thing one wants to do is be associated with a group who has been labeled, the worst of the worst, right? But again, all these things must come to pass. All right? As the scripture says, man's goings are of the Lord. So if you have heard the men of Great Millstone, and from the apostles on down, and you like, the message, You understood clearly. I mean, the edification is endless, but you couldn't bring yourself to come to this because first and foremost, the Lord, guided your path to where you are, but you didn't want to be associated with a group that was public enemy number one throughout the whole world. All right. So continuing on, it says, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. Despisers of those that are good. All right. So it just goes right along with what I'm saying. I'm not messing with the men from Great Millstone. I heard about those guys. I heard about them. Right. And this whole chapter just goes right along. It goes right along with what these men have been talking about concerning the Apostle Paul. Right. Paul's writings are not authentic. Paul's writings weren't of the Spirit. Paul's writings cannot be substantiated. All these things that you men have said about the Apostle Paul, right? Now, let me read on before I continue on that path. It says, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of Yahweh Shai, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. Now, let me speak on it right there. Denying the power thereof. Now, the Apostle Paul was pretty much hand-selected by Yahushai, right? The power of Yahweh Shai has selected the Apostle Paul. And here you men are. You got the audacity to say that Paul wasn't a man of the Lord. Or Paul was not, was not guided by this inspiration of the Lord. Right? But here in verse 5, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. Don't you know that the Lord Yahushai said he was a chosen vessel? And this is why we're being instructed from such turn away. You ain't ever going to see us, breaking bread, inviting these cats around that deny that what all the writings of the Apostle Paul are void, if you will. Oh yeah, we believe that they're certain accounts, but we don't believe they're inspired by God. How foolish do you men sound? All right. So let's continue on. Verse 6. It says, for of this sort are they which crept into houses and led captive silly women laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth, right? So you will never ever be able to understand the mysteries, the true mysteries of Yahweh Shai. No matter how much you study, how much you think you're getting down, all right? The Lord has blocked you from truly receiving the knowledge and this truth. Okay? Verse 8. Now as Janus and Jambres withstood Moses, so do these also resist the truth. Right? So we're telling you, the Apostle Paul was a man of the Lord. All right? John the Baptist was a man of the Lord. All right? But you resist that truth. What do you think the Lord's going to do to you? Right? We was instructed to eat the whole roll because the whole roll was good. Right? This roll has also been the armor that we were to put on. Now, if you believe that some of the writings in the scriptures aren't there for protection, if you will, what good is that armor? Right? What good is a suit of armor if there's holes in it, if there's weak spots in it? It's not that the armor is weak, it's the man that's bearing the armor that's weak. Okay? Continuing on. It says, now, verse 8 again. Now as Janus and Jambres withstood Moses, so do these also resist the truth. Men of corrupt minds reprobate concerning the faith. And that's crystal clear. Reprobate concerning the faith. You individuals truly have, the Lord has truly blown out your candle, all right? Blew out your candle. Now you're just, out there winging it. And the majority of you are satisfied with maintaining status quo here in Babylon. And we'll get to that as well. Verse 9. But they shall proceed no further. All right? So all you people who are talking that nonsense, talking that shit about the Apostle Paul, John the Baptist, the heathen can make it, the heathen can be delivered, you will proceed no further. Now again, it's all in the power of the Lord, what he's going to do, but you must know that it is written. It says, for their folly shall be manifest unto all men, as theirs also was. All right, and we're seeing that folly. Here we are at the end of the end of the race. The race is coming to an end, and you men are resorting back to, teachings that Babylon has, drowned us in. Everybody can be accepted. The Lord, it doesn't matter what the Lord looked like. It doesn't matter what color he was. He loves everybody. Okay? So continuing on. But thou hast fully known my doctrine, manner of life, purpose, faith, long-suffering, charity, and patience. Now the Apostle Paul is about to get into, some of the tribulation that he went through. Right? And here you got niggas on the corners talking enough shit about the Apostle Paul when these niggas you probably can't even spell Apostle Paul. The way you niggas are out there talking nonsense. Verse 11, persecutions, afflictions, which came unto me at Antioch, and at Iconium, in Lystra, what persecutions I endured. All right? What persecutions I endured. All right? Where we at? All right, let me read that again. It says, 11, persecutions, afflictions, which came unto me at Antioch, and at Iconium, at Lystra, what persecutions I endured, but out of all them, all the Lord delivered me. Okay? So let's go from there real quick. Let me go there. This is 2 Corinthians 11. Let's jump down to verse. Let me see. We go down to. Let me get right to the point. Verse 21. It says, I speak as concerning reproach, as though we had been weak. Howbeit, whensoever any is bold, I speak foolishly. I am bold also. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. Are they ministers of Yahushai? I speak as a fool. I am more. In laborers more abundant, in stripes above measure, in prison more frequent, in death oft. Of the Jews 5 times receive I 40 stripes, save one. Twice was I beaten with rods. Once was I stoned. Thrice was I shipwrecked. Twice I suffered shipwreck. A night and the day I have been in the deep, in journeyings often, in perils of water, in perils of robbers, in perils of my own countrymen, in perils by the heathen, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brethren. Okay? In weariness and in painfulness, in watchings often, in hunger and in thirst, in fasting often, in cold and nakedness, besides those things that are without, that which cometh upon me daily, the cares of all the churches. All right. So you can't sit there and say anything about the Apostle Paul and the things that he have been through. You measly, slimy, low life individuals who are consistently and continually talking about the Apostle Paul and his writings. This is why we can't wait for the Lord to start jacking y'all up, man. You know, it's about to be judgment season. Verse 13. But evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. All right. And this is exactly, this scripture was written exactly for you men, because you're evil. Verse 14. But continue thou in the things which thou hast learned, and hast been assured of, knowing of whom thou hast learned them. And this goes back to the spiritual parents who have been set up by the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right. 2007, 2008, when the apostles came on the scene, the Lord opened the floodgates in this thing. Literally opened them up. And now all of a sudden, the men whom the Lord has truly sent, y'all looking, you talking sideways, talking out the side of your mouth about these men. Watch yourselves. Watch yourselves. All right. So let's go from there. Let's go to 1 Timothy 4. It says, now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. All right. And when you start talking this craziness, you have departed from the faith. You know, there was a point in time these people was talking, you know, with sound mind, teaching with sound mind. But when the Lord gave you a little room, gave you a little bit of room to, you know, put yourself in some type of, you know, position of understanding, then he sent you off the deep end. All right. Now you're giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, which blows my mind because, you know, here we have been given the most precious gift in the world, all right, in the universe, by Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And you men have now taken this thing and have contorted it and twisted it, and all this was what? All this was for what? So you can be here in Babylon. You can maintain yourself here in Babylon. You can get an extra amount of views. You can get all kinds of likes. You can get all kinds of followers. You can get your followers to, you know, pay you tithes. All these things because you truly don't believe that the Lord is going to destroy this place. Some of you men speak about the kingdom, but you ain't getting into the kingdom until you pass through this gate. Okay? So, continuing. This is Mark 4, chapter 4. And let me start at about, let me go down to verse, where we at? Jump down to verse 18, 19. Yeah, I'll start at 18. I'll start right to the point, 18. It says, and these are they which are sown among thorns. Now, this whole chapter is good, but I want to start at 18. It says, and these are they which are sown among thorns, such as hear the word, and the cares of this world, right? The cares of this world. And this is how a lot of you men have been operating, off of the cares of this world. You know? And the cares of this world involve, you know, the same old story. You know, everybody can make it. You know, the Lord isn't, you know, leaving anybody out if you believe in him. You know, the Hebrew Israelites, we're going to be in the kingdom, you know, but all these other nations are going to be there with us and rulership, all kinds of, I mean, it's just a litany of nonsense. All right. You teach these things because you're so, trenched in the cares of this world. And this is what separates the men of Great Millstone from the head apostles on down. We don't give a damn about the cares of this world. We're not constricted to the 501c3 tax statute. We're not trying to please everybody and get people to hear and push and force this word on people. The scripture says whether they hear, whether they forbear. All right. But when you have an angle, and that angle entails you getting paid and you being able to, get these views and sponsors and all this other shit, the cares of this world means a hell of a lot to you. Okay, continuing on. It says, "In the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lust of other things enter in." All right? The lust of other things entering in. One man said, once he leaves the studio and goes home to his wives and big house and all this other shit, he totally puts this word behind him. Me and the brothers was just talking about this. There's absolutely no way, if you're truly submerged in this word, there's no way on this planet that you can put this word behind you at any time. You go to sleep with these scriptures on your mind. You wake up with the scriptures on your mind. Anything that you do in your travels, certain things you see, certain things you may hear, it all brings you back where? To the scriptures. So for any man that tells you that, they turn off, the Hebrew Israelite in him and goes to home and be, leave it to Beaver Cleaver, daddy of the household, they going off. Let's get away from them. It's not profitable for you. It's not fruitful for you. All right. And as we're reading, the cares of this world, right? As it is written, the lust of other things entering in, choke the word, and it become unfruitful. And this is why you see a lot of men shooting from the hip. They're shooting from the hip because, again, it just, their route that they're taking, it just goes well with Babylon the Great. And also it just shows you the lack of the fear of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Okay? The lack of the fear of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, man. This is what we're coming to. 2 Timothy 2:4. It says, "No man that worth entangle himself with the affairs of this life." We're not worried about the affairs. We ain't worried about whether or not the heathen can make it. These dudes put together a 100-page document to talk about the heathen. The scriptures say, "Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, which that you men do not do." All right? Ain't no man should be spending that kind of time on trying to figure out if the heathen can truly be saved or have mercy or be delivered. All right? Or receive salvation. That shit that Esau in his warped mind, that's what he teaches. All right? We are separated from them. We are different from them. All right? We're here to first and foremost speak to the ears of the hopeful elect. All right? And then those who are part of this fold and receive this word, it's all in the hand of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, how he raises them up and grounds them in this truth. Because there have been a lot of people who have woken up, right? There's still people to this very minute who have woken up to understand that they're Israelites, but still calling on the name of Yahshua. Woken up to know that they're Israelites, but still calling on the name of Christ. All right? So you truly have not separated yourself from the teachings of this world. By you professing the name of Christ, you're saying the very same thing that every other nation on this planet is saying. There's nothing different. All right? Again, no man that worth entangle himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier. All right? You know, you men, there's been men, again, the speech about Great Millstone. Oh, you guys are man pleasers. We just trying to please. No, we trying to please Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right? As it is written, that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier. All right? If you out there teaching the love of Christ, right? And if you out there teaching that the heathen can make it and have salvation, you ain't no soldier of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right? The soldiers of the Lord are concerned with the Lord's business. Did not Yahweh Shai tell that to his parents? He said, don't you know I must be about my father's business? All right, let's continue. Ezekiel 12:27 says, Son of man, behold, they of the house of Israel say, the vision that he seeth is for many days to come, and he prophesieth of the times that are far off. And that just leads you back to what? What comes to mind when you hear that? When a man tells you that we got another 1,000 years here. All right? We ain't shit. It's up in the air on a goddamn daily basis, man. The way this devil is handling the water, the food, the air we breathe. All right? We're thankful through the good graces of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai that he's preserving us from being taken in this devil's wickedness. All right? And again, this is why a lot of men have been caught up with the affairs of this life. All right? Because they don't want to see Babylon be destroyed. They don't want to lose their position here in Babylon the Great. So therefore, they'll tell you another 1,000 years, another 45 years we're going to be here. All right? And the words that they say, oh, that's a far off. That's not going to happen. They'll tell you, oh, it'll happen, but not in this lifetime. Why wouldn't you want it to happen in this lifetime, man? We're holding on. We are holding on, man. You know, and again, through the good graces of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, we're able to hold on. But shit, leave it up to this devil. We already know what he got planned. We already know what he's going to do to us. And this is why you got to be a soldier in this thing. You know, there are times where your mind is like, you ready to just, snap, crash out. But we got to wait upon Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai for further instructions when that time comes. He's going to guide our path. He's going to lead us to where we need to be. He's going to give us the protection that we're going to need during these crazy times. All right? But the majority of these people out here who have turned themselves over to the ways and the ways and the lifestyle of this life, they're not concerned about whether or not, the Lord destroys his place. And this is why that separation from other camps and Great Millstone is such a great divide. We are nowhere near on the same page. All right? We preach and teach Yahweh Shai. His return is going to be with violence. You people teach that Yahweh Shai is with love and compassion for the heathen. Shit, we trying to get the hell up out of here, man. This is Matthew. I'm going to end it with this. Matthew 11. I'm going to jump down to 27 on down. And it says, All things are delivered unto me of my Father, and no man knoweth the Son but the Father, neither knoweth any man the Father save the Son, and he to whomsoever the Son will reveal him. All right? And this is why when we say Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, all right, we're crying out to the Father, but through his Son. Okay? You got men, and again, it just to resort back to just calling the Lord Christ, continually calling the Lord Christ, it's sickening, man. Sickening. 28. It says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. You see, Babylon wasn't a place for us to receive rest. This was a place where we were to serve slavery and to be woken up into this truth, and that the Lord has breathed the breath of life into us, where we are now standing upon our feet and prophesying, okay, in front of the faces of all those who have afflicted us and who have done us wrong, in boldness. All right? But this is our job. This is what we've been hired to do. The Lord said he's going to give us rest. We ain't expecting no rest here in Babylon. See, a lot of you guys are resting easy here in Babylon. All right? Because this is where you planted your foundation. This is where you, as what they all saying, home is where you hang your hat. You men have hung your hat here in Babylon. You know? You want to run around Babylon talking about you the chosen people for the rest of your life? And still, the world don't give a damn what you think. So with that, I'm gonna say all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Hakodash. You know, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I'm gonna say shalom for now.